their desires, like all these different things they expected to happen right then, right now, like all this different type of stuff. And just, I don't know, it's just really impactful kind of reading some stuff. So if you guys haven't checked it out, one of the books that I've been going through over the past month was Psychopath Free. Fantastic book. Be able to take a look at that, be able to check it out. Book of the month for this one, which I'm like running behind, but we're going to knock it out here in the next couple of days, is actually called The Motivation Manifesto. It's by Brendan Burchard. He's a fantastic life coach. He's got a lot of amazing stuff going on there. So it's super, super exciting to be able to read some of his stuff and be able to share some of that and how it connects, to everything that's going on. But super excited to be here. Like I said, it's been a really great week. I'll read an excerpt out of that here in just a minute, because I think the freedom piece, give you like a sneak peek, I think the freedom piece is really huge. It's really huge. I think a lot of people don't realize, what freedom actually is. As far as like we're talking like personal, like individual freedom, things like that, and how a lot of that is a choice and it is a responsibility. A lot of my stuff is not loading on my screens behind me for some reason. So until then, we're kind of flying blind on a couple things. For some reason, Instagram and TikTok do not want to engage with us tonight, but it's fine. We will keep rolling. We'll keep doing the best we can. But yeah, no, excited to be with you guys. So if you didn't get a chance to check out our question and answer time yesterday, that was with Lee Hammock and myself, Mental Healness and myself. That happened last night on Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that, feel free. That'll be up. I think it's already up on his page. It'll be up on my page within the next day. So I had a time to. But yeah. So super excited. If you haven't had a chance, it's your chance to be able to get into the monthly Zoom call. So we're kicking them off coming up this coming week on Monday. It's going to be the monthly Zoom call starting off. And as we continue to progress, it's going to slide back towards the beginning of the month, but we're super excited to be able to have this time to be able to work on developing community, developing relationships with a lot of different people, and also having coaching topics of things we want to talk about and things to help inspire and motivate you as you continue on, month to month. Sweet. I got one screen up. So we're about ready to roll here. Once I get the other one up, then I definitely want to touch base with you real quick, because I want to talk to you guys real quick. I'll give you a sneak peek. Okay. Give you a sneak peek at one of the quotes that I used on a video today that was just absolutely incredible. I was super excited. There's a lot of exciting things coming up. Okay, there's a lot of exciting things coming up. Officially, yesterday we finally announced that we're going to be doing a physical meet and greet in Virginia. Mental Healness and myself, so Lee and myself, we're actually going to be in Virginia. That's where I live, but he's going to be coming up because he's not too far away. But he's going to be coming up. We're going to be doing an official meetup June 12th. So spread the news. We're really excited to be able to connect with a bunch of people and be able to meet people in person. So right now we're locking down some of the location stuff like that. But meet and greet, and it actually worked out. They're planning like a little trip of it, basically. So what's actually happening is it's going to be him and his wife are coming up, and so it's going to be all four of us and the kids. I think they're going to be all together hanging out. So if you guys want to come out, meet, interact with us, and be able to meet the wives and the kids, that's all going to be happening up on June 12th over here in the Virginia Beach area of Virginia. So anyways, super excited. All right, I'll give you guys a sneak peek real quick. And one of the things that I was recording today, it actually came up when I was interacting with someone on a one-on-one, and it was just super powerful. It was just super, super powerful and exciting to be able to see. So I want to share this with you because I think it's really cool. This is coming from the book. Coming from the book Motivation Manifesto, okay? And I'm talking about like narcissists and slaves, and also think of it this way of like when you're in those relationships, you feel stuck. You feel like a slave to that relationship. Like you can't get out. Like there's no way to be able to get out whatsoever. So I want you to think of this, okay? First off, from the narcissist perspective, and then the freedom part from your perspective, okay? Some might hope that freedom means we can give up or release responsibilities from our lives, but nothing could be farther from the truth. The thinking goes, if I am free, shouldn't I be free from all responsibilities? But personal freedom is not liberty to finally indulge in whatever passing moods or inclinations strike our fancy. It doesn't mean we can act on every fast need, be cruel to others around us when we feel like it, take whatever we want whenever we want it, or act as an irresponsible buffoon simply because it would be fun or pleasurable in the moment. All this world would merely, let's try again. All this would be merely slavery to unconscious impulse and compulsion. And when I read that, I was like, that is so true with narcissists. That's so true with the toxic people, because everybody's like, they get, they don't get karma, like they're living like their best life now. Like no, they're actually like slaves to their compulsion, their impulse. They're slaves to those things because they can't stop the cycle. It just keeps happening over and over and over again. And as a result, they don't stop. But at the same time, you feel stuck in that relationship based on the devaluation, the degrading, like everything that they've put on you, and you feel stuck. So I want you to hear this when it talks about freedom, okay? It says freedom requires responsibility to choose who we are above and beyond our immediate impulses, needs, and social pressures, so that we can genuinely express the type of person we want to be, live the life we truly want to live, and leave the legacy we desire. See, when it comes down to it, that freedom is every single one of us. Our responsibility every single day to choose that freedom. Now, I know some of you out there might be stuck in the middle of a trauma bond because of the fact you're like, I can't get free. Okay, well, freedom starts up here first. It starts in your mind. It starts in the place of being able to take back your power, your worth, your confidence, your self-esteem, and being able to say, hey, my worth is not defined by the person who treated me like shit. That's powerful. Super excited. Just want to be able to throw that out there. That's super powerful. The book is called Motivation Manifesto. I know it's backwards for a bunch of you guys. Motivation Manifesto. It's by Brendan Michard. Really good author. Love his stuff. A lot of times I recommend his podcast, The Brendan Show. Give it a look. Okay. Super awesome. But did a video coming out next week about that, because I think it's so true that we get to a place in everybody's mindset, in everybody's life, but especially in these type of relationships, you get to the place where you're like, I'm trapped. And it doesn't feel like there's any way out. And, I see some people saying some stuff about like trauma bond, things like that. And that's so true. But the thing that's crazy is that freedom mindset is in the mind. It's in the mind, because when you think about it, I have countless people that I've talked to that reach out for like a one-on-one or to break out of the trauma bond. And these are people that have been separated for 5 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and they still are struggling with the trauma bond because it's so real. But it is a mindset shift. It's a mindset change. And anyways, that's the first little fire I wanted to drop there. Super excited about it. Was rushing around trying to get everything started tonight. We were running a little bit late. We were coming back from a small group and we ran into nonstop traffic. They decided to take 4 lanes down to 1. So that was like super fun. Had to exercise my patience on the way home, but got home. Didn't have a chance to be able to help out with Sophia's nightly routine. So if you hang out here for a few minutes, they'll probably pop in here to be able to say goodnight, since she didn't get a chance to do daddy hugs because she's taking a bath and getting some food and stuff like that because we're running super late. But anyways, want to start off with a bang and be able to share that because I think that's awesome, and I think that's something that's really, really cool. How's everybody doing? All right. I don't know. I just got pumped today. Yesterday I was part of the Fact Map Mastermind with the Warrior Group and setting up the next goals, the next thought of like what my next quarter is going to look like, how I'm going to live a full life and body, being, balance, and business, and just super pumped about seeing how far I've come, seeing like the next step, seeing what's going on next. So just really excited. And today I jumped up and had like just a moment of like clarity as we like ran through some YouTube videos and things like that. We recorded like 6 today. No, 5, sorry. And it was just super awesome. Super excited. But anyways, should we get to some questions? Appreciate it. All right, let's get rolling. Let's see what you guys got. So if you guys don't know, we're on was it 5 platforms tonight? So Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I don't even know my Twitter account. I think it's R Motivations. I don't know. Instagram and TikTok. So try to bounce back and forth. If I missed your question, it's not on purpose. Probably not. No, I'm just kidding. It's not on purpose, but it's just because we're bouncing back and forth. So let's bust it out. All right. Y'all bring some fire into the chat too. All right. All right, let's see what we got. Adrian says, trauma bond is real. Mine came back after 6 years, right back to step 1. I have been no contact. I'm now pregnant with our 5th child. That trauma bond is real. It is so hard. Bojana? I don't know how to say that. I mentioned we want to move. He's seen our daughter twice this year. He don't call her, and when she texts him, he don't respond. He's in Europe 6 to 7 months a year. Now, a lot of times, a lot of people asking a lot of stuff about co-parenting and about things going on with that. Crazy, thanks so much. I think I'm good right now on YouTube. If you want to hang out on TikTok, you're totally fine. YouTube's been a lot nicer to me recently, so thank you. Why did my ex-narc reach out months later and says he's sorry and never meant to hurt me, and how he never got pleasure from hurting me? I feel like that's a lie because name calling is to hurt someone. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you see them lash out in those arguments, and a lot of times they'll reach out after the fact to try to be able to hoover you back in, to try to get control, to kind of re-up the idea of like, hey, I'm still in your life. Like, don't forget about me. The ordinary mom, been about almost 4 years in my face because the kids. Torture continues. So trauma does too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Plan out your next quarter. That's what I do, quarter by quarter. It's got to be plannable, actionable. Why would he hide the new supply from family, friends, even after being separated? Is it have anything to do with y'all like going through a divorce? Is it that type of separation, or is it is it just like a relationship separation kind of thing? Because sometimes they'll hide the new supply to be able to help with like financial stuff or, divorce papers, things like that. Sometimes it'll look better on that aspect. The other aspect is a lot of times they'll hide from family and friends to be able to keep that mask, to make themselves look like the good person and you to be like the crazy person. How do I help my husband get the help he needs? He just jumped out his second-story window, leg broke. It sounds like there's a lot of stuff going on there. If he's not willing to acknowledge his behaviors, his actions, what's actually going on, like nothing's going to change. Like that's the part that's really hard for sure. Going through divorce, yeah. So if it's the idea of like hiding it with going through divorce, a lot of times that can be like monetarily wise, trying to hide what's actually going on to save face, like in the courts, things like that. Are narcissists self-aware of what they're doing, or are they unaware? I think I just did a YouTube video on this the other day that came out. But I think there's an aspect that they are self-aware because they know what they're doing to the point that they're not doing the same thing to everyone. Okay, they're doing it differently to different people. They act different around their family versus their friends versus you versus work. There's a whole lot of different things about that. So yeah, I think there's an aspect that narcissists are self-aware, or at the very, very most unaware aspect, they at least know something's weird. Something's off. Because they're not fitting into society the same as everybody else. Does that make sense? Any tips how to combat narcissistic community mobbing due to slander? That is a really tough one. I feel like I should have a better answer because I don't have a super good one. I know a lot of times like with like slander as far as like, smear campaign and like online stuff is like, ignore the noise. But if it's something where it's actually like out in person, like people showing up, things like that, you probably need to get like protective orders. You probably need to work on making sure that you're safe, your safety. Jesse says, my narc hoovered by proxy last night saying something about my ex's best friend. He sent a message to my sister. Should I worry he'll create chaos with my ex friend? Yeah, he probably will. But if it's your ex-friend, then, I'd go no contact with the ex-friend too. Beth said, Beth said, I remember in your previous videos you talked about going to Bible college. Was that because you were thinking about working ministry? No, not necessarily. I went to Bible college. I went to Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina, and originally I went there for cinema and video productions. That's what I started off with. Can your words or actions bring out the narcissist in someone? Can it show up because of insecurity? So narcissism is built on insecurity. It's built on the rushing river of shame that's underlying narcissism. So it's built on that period. Sometimes words, actions, sometimes events can bring out some of the narcissistic stuff, but it's not like you're creating it. You're not making a narcissist. Like they're there already. It might just be the mask is slipping because of something that's going on. He came to mind for Christmas and was sad the whole time. Do you come back usually when you're almost healed? Like so narcissists have like this like radar. Like they have this like sixth sense in one sense of when you know you're getting close to being healed. When you feel like you have like 5 steps left on the marathon to get to your healing space, that's when they seem to like come knocking on the door. They send you a text. Okay, that's why we focus so much in coaching of like going no contact and of blocking that aspect so they can't contact you because they will come back in. Like a lot of times they will try to come back in. You have to keep your guard up so you don't fall for that. But yeah, is it possible to be discarded and getting a divorce just for punishment? Yes, absolutely. Aren't you still a narcissist though? Yes, I am a narcissist. I'm a self-aware narcissist. Self-aware narcissist chats is what's on all of it. On here to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. That's what the focus, what the goal is. Thank you all so much. I see some of you guys sharing and liking. Like, I just want to spread the news to people. Like, let people know you probably have somebody in your life that's going through something in a toxic relationship that could benefit just from like hearing that they're not the only person, hearing that they're not alone. Because guarantee you, if you've been in a toxic relationship, there's a period of time where you felt alone. You felt like, I'm just crazy. Like everything else is going well, but like, why is this not? All right. I keep running back. He treats me like I'm shit. He has 3 main people and still seeing all types, but he said that he needs me to make amends so he could take me back. I have no idea what he means. So it's just a Hoover. You know, if he's got 3 different people, he's running around with everybody else. He just wants to add you to the mix. He just wants to put you on tap. So narcissists don't. Narcissist making amends means they need to go out and have a changed life. If they're going to have a changed life, you know, if you've been with them for, you know, a year, then they need to have a changed life for 6 months. Okay, and then you could possibly talk to them. Like otherwise, like they're just, you know, they're just leading you on. They're just leading you on. Is the love bomb devaluing, discarding basically what the relationship is? Yeah, absolutely. So love bomb, devalue, and discard. That's kind of the cycle in a nutshell. As for the findings and the tests, my wife is a narcissist. She's trying to get a divorce from me. How can I help her, or should I just leave? Lots of stuff happening. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff happens whenever like that comes out, and whenever that's like falling apart in one sense. So if you're going through divorce and she's not willing to work on herself or not willing to work on the relationship, then your best in one sense is try to make sure that you're being safe, that you're helping yourself, that you're taking care of like yourself, because otherwise you're going to get beat down and taken advantage of. You know, you could try to reach out as much as you can, but like whenever you're in that situation where you're trying to help somebody, typically we're saying like, do not call them a narcissist. Do not go after them with like kind of like the regular lingo in one sense, but focus on the actions or behaviors of like, hey, what you're doing like is hurtful because of this. Like you're cheating, you're lying, like all this different type of stuff, and try to get them into therapy. If they're not willing to go to therapy, they're not willing to work on themselves. They're not willing to work on themselves means they don't care about you. What's the difference between someone who has narcissistic tendencies and an actual narcissist? So narcissistic tendencies, you look around like society and you see lots of different people that have narcissistic tendencies or traits in one sense. And I'm not going to go as far to say like everyone everywhere in the entire world has all these, but I think there's at least a low level that could happen in the majority of people out there. You know, someone is like, oh, like this president's a narcissist or this president's a narcissist. My therapist kind of said one time, she's like, you know, pretty much all presidents are to at least some degree narcissists because they have to be, you know, if they think they're going to actually run the whole country, run the whole world. Hey, can you say hi?
Can you say hi?
Hi. You getting ready for night-night? You can't jump up there.
I want to see itself.
You want to see a show? It's not a show.
No, she wants to see herself.
Oh, you want to see yourself? There you go. Can you wave? There you go. Can you say good night to everybody?
Good night to everybody.
I love you. Can we kiss? Don't do that. All right. You have a good night's sleep, okay?
Love you.
No, no, no.
Okay.
Oh, she doesn't do kisses
There
on
you
the
go.
lips anymore.
There you go.
Here you go.
Minnie and Bear.
All right, say night to Daddy.
Don't go to school.
Oh, say night.
Can you say night?
Good night to Panda.
All right. Bye. Anyways, like I said, we were running late, so I didn't get to put her down tonight. So, thank y'all. All right. Yes, but difference between traits and like narcissism. A lot of times you have like more of it, and it's like higher in one sense. So I guess you kind of say like with like narcissistic scale, you've got like down here like narcissistic like traits or tendencies, and then you have people that are narcissists. Like they are like they check the boxes on at least 5 out of the 9, and they start having more of those as far as like it's more manipulation. There's more like intention behind it. There's more stuff that's actually going on there. And then as you move up the scale, you've got sociopaths, and then you've got like psychopaths. Like that's kind of like in one sense like how I've seen it described a couple of times. So you have a lot of people that have traits, but what are the actions that you're actually seeing? That's why when it comes down to it, and people are wondering like, hey, like I don't know if they're a narcissist or not. I don't know if I should stay, or if they're a narcissist, then I definitely should go. Like at the end of the day, like take the label and throw it out. Like what matters is how they're treating you. What matters is how they're acting. What matters is what they're demonstrating on a day-to-day basis. Okay. All right. Tips on keeping contact with ex-narcissist kids. Been in life for 11 years and love them so much. Yeah. So like with that, I would say it's kind of depends on like the age gap or like what the difference is. Like sometimes you're able to keep in contact with the kids and it's amicable and like it works because they can contact you. If they're like really young in one sense, that might be a hard part because you're not going to be able to interact with them as much because you're going to have to interact with the narcissist at the same time. So I would be careful of that. Okay, so 16, 22, and 17. Awesome. Yeah, so with that, you're probably in better bet to be able to like talk with them. If they're with the narcissist, like under his roof or her roof or whoever it is, if they're under their roof, then you might be able to communicate with them and like see, like if they already know and they've seen like the habits, the thoughts, and like the things that are actually happening out in the relationship, might be something that works out for them to be able to still keep in contact. Yeah, no, I mean, he's going to think it's weird because like you're actually able to connect with them on an empathy level and like a sympathy level and like a human level, and he's not going to be able to do that. So like ultimately they'll eventually have the choice of like they either tell them that they're talking to you or, they don't, just be able to avoid that. But yeah, been no contact in a month. He creeps in fake Facebook, but won't say anything. 5 years. Yeah, no, I mean, they'll creep on a lot of different ones. Like I don't know how many like fake Facebook people like come up with. It's crazy. No offense, Facebook, that are watching, but like seriously, there's a lot of Facebook accounts, especially that narcissists will keep like creating and recreating just to be able to track you and follow you and figure out like what you're doing and put a different story in their mind of like, oh, like they're not really happy, like they're actually just pretending. They want to be able to deny what's going on the other side. Is upset because I won't be here for him to move back in with. It was never supposed to be that way anyway, so I feel like he's not changing at all. Yeah, if they're not showing the change, if they're not showing the work, don't put in that effort to be able to move back or get back with them. It's just a facade. It's just a fake. 2 months, no contact. Thanks to you. Oh, sweet. Awesome. Super glad to be able to hear that. Why would a narcissist get jealous when you go out? 1 is the idea of abandoning them. 2 is the idea of rejecting them, coming from that primal fear of abandoning them. 3, they're losing control. They lose control of you when you go out and about. And 4, they're losing the aspect of being able to isolate you, where you're consistently coming back to them for all of the supply. Do they come back multiple times while being in no contact? Yes, absolutely. Shame or guilt, will it ever stop? For the narcissist, not till they embrace it, it won't. The ex-narcissist sends texts pretending they're other people to hoover me, have kids, can't block. So if you have to, you can go through a third party. You can go through a parenting app as well. Talking Parents app, Our Family Wizard, We Parent, and App Close. Those are the 4 that people have given to me that work. But you got to go, like, if you have to communicate to some aspect, you got to gray rock. You got to try to put like a buffer in between you and the narcissist so that they don't control your emotions in one sense. Okay. Not sure if you can read this. Can you do a video or speak about narcissists that are enmeshed to their mothers? I don't have a ton of background and a ton of data on that to be the best at that. I know that a lot of times you have narcissists that cling to the moms or identify a lot with them, whether that's because of the trauma that the mom put them through, or sometimes even the trauma that the dad put them through, that kind of has like a unique bond. And a lot of times that bond ends up being very awkward and like triangulating that person and the mom in one sense, or making that person feel like they're not as good as the mom or stuff like that. And that comes back to just the comparison in general. App Close. My ex-husband doesn't even have my phone number anymore. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Why was he normal, quote unquote, perfect for months, then turned evil during the discard? So a lot of times that's the aspect of like the mask falling. Typically having the mask fall whenever there is a something that happens. So like oftentimes it's big events, Christmas, Valentine's Day, or you get pregnant, you have a baby, y'all get engaged, y'all get married. Like a lot of those are like big events that a lot of times can trigger like mass slippage. Okay, so that's an aspect too. So I keep getting kicked out of your live, keeps freezing me out. Instagram's been so weird. Yep, sorry, but welcome back. Mine told me my life had been easy. The last 5 months has been anything but easy. Yeah, they'll make you doubt your reality of what's actually going on. Many people go through trauma and don't become narcs. What's the difference? So a lot of times the difference is the emotional maturity. Working through that and understanding like in an emotional way of what's actually going on and how to be able to identify those emotions and process them in a healthy way. Narcissists aren't able to process those emotions in a healthy way. They have emotions, but the problem is they don't process them in a productive way. They process them through rage of like, I can't fix this situation. I can't control this situation. Let me just attack the situation. Which ultimately means attacking the person. My ex would always, it went too fast. Why does he keep telling me he's better without me? Probably just like try to devalue, kind of knock you down. I blocked my ex-narc and he sent me some messages with another account. Yeah, a lot of times they'll try to hoover from other ways. So yeah, typical causes of becoming a narcissist is going to be childhood trauma or abuse, or you have overbearing or over-enabling parents. Be kind of the common ones there in one sense. Your page has helped me through the horrific emotional upheaval of my first narcissist. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Been no contact because of you for the last 8 weeks. Now the narc's mom texts me about stuff he left in my home. Yeah, so I mean, great example. The narc's mom texts that he left stuff at your home. All right, so take all the stuff that's in the home, package it up, put it out on the side of the road. When it's trash day, text the mom, be like, it's here. Pick it up before the trash guy gets here, because that's all it is. Making plans and then ditching. He seems genuinely interested in the plans are made, but he still ditches time and time again. So a lot of times that's future faking, and it's also just breadcrumbing you. It's giving you an idea of like, hey, this is going to happen, or hey, like, I'll give you affection, or I'll give you this thought, or I'll give you this hope in one sense, and they reel it back in because they're more important than what's going on in your life. Why does a narc want to hurt us after discard? Shouldn't they be happy with their new life? So they pretend to be happy with their new life. The people that are unhappy are the ones that have to convince everybody else that they're happy. And so a lot of times what they're doing is they're going on to the next person, but they still want to keep the door open, or they still want to be like, if I can't have you, then nobody can have you. Because again, a narcissist views people as like property. They view them as objects. Like, you're mine. I'm going to take you. I'm going to put you on the shelf. Nobody else better take you down or play with you because you are mine. I own you. That's like the thought process kind of behind that. Why does a narcissist choose communication through fake social media profiles instead of directly? Oftentimes at that point, because they've been told not to contact. They've been told like, hey, I don't want to contact you. And so then their goal is like, how do I get this person back? Sometimes sometimes it's something where they can't contact that person directly, unless they show up at the door. And some of those would get like restraining orders. You and Lee have been helpful to see the truth of who my ex is. I'm grateful for both of you. Absolutely. I know 18-year-old daughter of a covert single narc parent. She's now showing signs like silent treatment like her dad. Tips of what to say when she contacts me again. So I guess that's the ex-narc's daughter in one sense. Or like she's giving you the silent treatment. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm sorry. Why does my ex use my relationship with Christ against me and says you're so godly but doesn't love me? Probably the idea of like cognitive dissonance, making you think one thing but then showing you the exact opposite. So if you have a narcissist or abuser that's bringing religion or God into the picture and then they're still abusing you, like they're not a Christian, they don't have God in them. Why does a narc accuse you of mental health issues and make you question yourself? So a lot of times that's like the idea of like gaslighting. Just recorded a video on gaslighting the other day of like turning it back on you. Because if I can make you defensive, if I can put you on the defensive when everything that's coming up, like you're going to have less of a chance to actually get to the core issue, which is me, which is the problems that I have, which is the things that I'm going through. So if you're saying like, hey, like I think you need to work on this, I'm like, you need to work on this. You need to go to counseling. You need to get in therapy because you're the one that's messed up. What happens a lot of times is then they want to switch it back on you to make you doubt your reality, your sanity, your clarity. And a lot of that gets really confused with a lot of times, I call it like narcissistic fog. Someone came up with the acronym of fog. And so at fear, obligation, and guilt, like they come up with this fog that kind of goes over you and then you don't know what to do. You don't know what's actually going on. Heather's in the house on TikTok. Great to see you here. If you guys don't follow her already, she's in the comments. Heather Coleman Voss. She's on TikTok and on Instagram. She's got some great content, especially with narcissism in the workplace. Okay. Yeah. So Diva, what I would say is like if she's the one giving you the silent treatment, like that just comes down to like your boundaries. Like how are you going to treat those boundaries? When she comes back in your life, be like, hey, like if you have a problem with me, like let's talk about it or let's deal with it. But if you're just going to disappear, then that's not something I want to have in my life. Like that's not a relationship I want to keep in my life if you're not willing to actually engage as a mature adult. Set those boundaries and stick tight to them. Why do they ghost you when things are going good? I can never get them to respond and explain why. A lot of times, I wouldn't say all the time, but a lot of times I would say a narcissist ghosts in the relationship when things are going good because they're with someone else. Okay, because they're focused on someone else. A lot of times that happens. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, my narcissist didn't ever cheat. Like, whatever. Okay, but a lot of times that's what happens. How can a therapist pick up on whether someone is narcissistic? Looking at the traits, but honestly, I think one of the hardest things for therapists, like when they're working with people, is therapists, psychologists, counselors, they're taught to work with the person in the room. The problem is who walks in the room? The narcissist with the mask. And you don't really know who you're dealing with. And that's why a lot of times, like I've seen like psychologists and therapists and counselors on like my one-on-one calls when I'm trying to talk to them because they've been suckered into these relationships. And they've told me, like I've had psychologists like look at me like face to face over Zoom and say, what we learn about narcissism, like in school is nothing like what it actually is. Like we learn about it, but you don't expect it to hit the way it does. We don't expect to get suckered in because we know about it. But knowing about it and understanding how it actually portrays itself, she said are like two different things. My 19-year-old daughter called out my ex for his bad behavior. He stopped talking to her. So it could be the silent treatment, punishing her for calling him out. It's also the idea of like she put him accountable. She put him on stage of saying like, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Narcissists don't like to be held accountable at all. Can I ever get him to admit he is a narcissist, also a cop? So at the end of the day, you don't need to have them to admit they're narcissists to set your boundaries and to work on you. Okay. But if that's the goal, probably not. If you're trying to get a diagnosis or you're trying to say like, hey, this person, you're a narcissist and you just want to kind of pound that into them, make sure they get it or make sure they respond, like this is typically not going to happen. Focus on the traits, focus on the behaviors, focus on the demonstration. That is what is more important than a label. Okay. I don't know. I'm getting confused when the videos are coming out because we're kind of all over the place on production with YouTube videos. But did a video talking about like why diagnosis is very unlikely, for narcissists. Because like one, they don't think anything's wrong with them. Two, like they're not going to get into therapy. They're adverse to therapy. I don't remember what the other ones were. Like one of them was like therapists like don't like working with them. Like they don't like working with narcissists because they know like, hey, this is either has the idea behind it that this person's never going to get healed, or I'm never going to get anywhere with this person, or I know it's just going to be really tough to even do anything. Personally, from my perspective, from what I've seen, like of people that are narcissistic or people that have even tried to work with some of them, they try to pawn them off, or they try to diagnose them with something else in one sense, because I think there's an aspect that they don't want to do it because there's not money involved. Because if you're diagnosing someone as a narcissist, you're saying like, hey, typically the idea, the mantra is like, hey, this person's incurable and there's nothing I can do to fix them. And like one, a therapist doesn't like that idea. And then two, the aspect of there's no money in it is, it's not even like BPD where you could like help to prescribe some stuff to be able to help level some stuff out. Like a narcissist, there's not anything that you can give for that in one sense. There's no magic pill. That makes sense. Where we at? Do you change how you view the discarded supply in Hoover? Do you change how you view the discarded supply and Hoover? I don't know why I'm like blanking on that kind of a question. So like as it becomes up to the place of discarded, like, yeah, everything changes in their mind because they want to be able to discard, and they have to be able to justify it typically by nitpicking at what you're doing. And then we switch it back around. It's like that Hoover of keeping that person in, keeping that person like on tap. A lot of times I'll say. I went around ex-narcissist to avoid asking him work questions. Management sent him to me today to answer. Then he says, you can just ask me. I just closed the chat with no response. Thoughts on that? That's what they said. I'm trying to predict Hoovers. Yeah, so I mean, with the work aspect, you're gonna have to set like really strong boundaries for yourself to make sure that you're not getting like sucked into a Hoover or a thought process. When it's something that you have to engage, like you have to be really strong on your boundaries to be able to keep that distance in one sense, not be able to let them like back in. So I think it's good that you're like aware of it. Like you got to keep that really high, and like ultimately it's something that hopefully you could either get transferred or like be in a different job, because a lot of times it still doesn't fix it. So word salad. Word salad is really just the idea of like sitting down, going through a conversation, and you never getting to the point, you never finishing the conversation, and them just like dumping on you. So like literally like it'd be like the idea of like an hour, 2, 4, 5 hours of conversation, where at the end of the conversation you're like, I don't know what we talked about, and the things that I remember we talked about we never resolved, or we never actually discussed. It's a giant, like a lot of it has a circular reasoning in it. There's a couple of the things. Check out, I have a YouTube video. I think it just says narcissist and word salad, and it goes into like several attributes of word salad that would give you some more definition there, Kenzie. What about constantly comparing to exes or mom? Is that a narcissistic trait? So that would be the idea of triangulation. So triangulation is how can I bring someone else into the picture, either mentally, emotionally, physically. How can I bring someone else in the picture that is going to make you work harder for my appreciation and my attention? Okay, so like that could be another girl, that could be a mom, that could be a daughter. Like as far as like if it's a guy, like it'd be the opposite way. If it's a girl, like it could be really like anybody in one sense, or it could just be even like comments or like questions or like seeing someone or saying something. Like all that kind of stuff can like lead up to that. Why do the narcissist moved on without looking back from his ex, but for me is making my life difficult? So unless you've like seen like their entire time with their ex, there could be a part that they did make life difficult for that ex. You just never knew because you heard the story from them. But a lot of times they'll make your life difficult. Maybe if you were holding them accountable, maybe if they, want to say like, hey, like I'm being vindictive. Like I don't want to, I don't want you to be with anybody else, like anything like that. Do you have a book you recommend on boundaries? No, I do not have a book recommending on boundaries. I do have one book I recommend, which is Psychopath Free. Really good book to work on healing. Psychopath Free. Okay. That is like super good. It's super helpful. I do have a course that just came out on boundaries, written by Bree. She runs Abuse is Abuse, mainly on TikTok and on Instagram, but she just wrote a course called Boundaries, which is actually just came out this like 2 weeks ago now on the Narc app. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go to Google Play and Apple Store. It's called the Narc app, NARC, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. We're building a safe environment for community people to be able to come in, be able to share their stories, be able to record their truth, be able to track their no contact, be able to interact with community, be able to go to weekly lives that are actually not broadcasted anywhere. So like the lives that are inside the app, you have to log into it. It's a secure place so that you can actually be able to see like, hey, this is what's going on. It's a safe place where I can share, I can ask questions, and you don't have to worry about an ex like watching it on YouTube or anything like that, because it's not broadcasted out there. We're trying to make this a safe place for survivors and for people healing, so they can learn about narcissism, they can build community, and they can learn and grow as they continue to move on. Alice in Narcland. I did a one-on-one a few weeks ago. It worked faster than online therapy to see things. Therapists specialize in so many things, it takes so long to get targeted advice. Thank you for coaching. That is super awesome. I'm really glad to hear that, Alice. Well, I know your name's not Alice, but Alice in Narcland. But yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, if y'all are ever interested in, sorry, she just brought it up, so I'll just talk about it. If y'all are ever interested in talking one-on-one, I work with people in like 3 different aspects at a glance. And one's breaking out of a trauma bond. The next one's detoxing from the narcissist, and then setting up goals and future vision values, setting up boundaries so that you don't go back and that you also don't get involved with another one. You can actually just go on rawmotivations.com. So that's my website there. It's got a place to be able to book one-on-ones, or you can click the link in any of the bios. Start documenting as often as possible. Absolutely. Can a narcissist not truly love someone unless that person provides something of use to them? So you have to think of your question there, Kenzie. When you're thinking of your question, you're asking, like, can the narcissist not truly love someone unless the other person is giving them something they want? At that regard, like, you're asking, like, can a person love a vending machine as long as it puts out sodas? That's really what it is. So you have to be able to think, like, is that actually true love? Or is that just convenience because you're giving me supply? You're giving me something I want. Okay? You have to think of like your definition of love. A narcissist isn't going to love. They're not going to put your best interest, like honor, respect. They're not going to put your best interest above their own wants, needs, and desires, because it's all about them. And that's the focus. The sessions I have, I've got 30-minute, and I also have 60-minute, and then I have packages too, which right now are 4, 6, and 8. Co-parenting with a narcissist. Okay, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm sorry. I'm not going to answer your question 100%, but I do want to try to direct people. There is an amazing webinar that's going to be coming out here in a week, 2 weeks, June 2nd. Okay. Put on by Lisa, Stronger Than Before. That's where she is on all these channels. Stronger Than Before. And it is how to co-parent with your toxic ex. You can find the link in my bio. But yeah, it's a really, really good. It's going to be really good. There's like, I don't even remember all it is. One's like a divorce coach. One's like a parenting coach. One's a lawyer. Different things like that. There's a lot of different people, or a judge. There's a lot of different people in there. It's going to be really good. Why would a narcissist keep offering for him and his new supply could do favors for me, like babysit my cat? That's literally like just triangulation. That's trying to keep you like in the same realm of everything. Like block, go no contact. Don't let them in there. Do you think once the stalking starts, she's going to try to reach out next? Oftentimes, but there also could be the idea of like a reverse Hoover of like the stalking starts, you're questioning like wait a second, like there's stalking going on. Let me reach out. Like, why in the world are you still looking at my page? Like, no, just block them. Don't let them into your life. It felt so real. Still have trouble in believing it was just a game to her. Yeah, no, I mean, part of it is the hard part of like wrapping your mind around the reality of like, did this actually happen? Like, is this actually real? Like, what actually happened in the relationship? It felt real. It felt connected. When in reality, like, that was just the fantasy. That was just a mask. And that's why I work with people to try to get clear on what it was. So like, it felt like it was love. How did that person demonstrate love to you on a day-to-day basis? How do they demonstrate care? How do they demonstrate your value? Okay. Where are we at? What was the TikTok channel that was good for work? Oh, for good for work situations. Heather Coleman Voss. Altogether, Heather Coleman Voss. Ex-narcissist mom is a narc. Why do they treat their moms like girlfriends? Enmeshed if mom was abusive in childhood and made them that way? Is it love-hate? Yeah, it's the aspect of love-hate, but there also is like the underlying aspect of like abandonment and rejection that's kind of like underlying some of that. So it's like that push-pull of narc on narc in one sense. So it's like the mom like abandoning or abusing them, and it triggers that rejection. They want to be able to have that connection, kind of back and forth in that aspect. Why does my ex-husband narcissist still wear his wedding ring? If he's not actively hoovering and he's not trying to get back with you in the moment, he's probably using it as a sob story for his next relationship. If a narcissist says he said things because he was nervous and insecure, is he just hoovering or is he changing? How is he demonstrating that he's changing? If he says anything in the middle of that moment, it means crap. Do they know they wear a mask? Not typically. I wouldn't describe it like that in the moment. I used to reverse hoover all the time. Now it's just silence till he wants. Sometimes weeks, months. No, you don't sound like an idiot. So a lot of times people, when they come out of these relationships, they're so used to other people talking down on them that they start taking that role of the abuser and start talking down on themselves. Like, you don't sound like an idiot. You sound like a person who's been through a lot of shit, and that's okay. Acknowledge it, own it, and say, hey, this is what I've been through. It sucks. But now what are we going to do next? How are you going to grow next? Is the next supply better or easier than the previous? It seems they cheat down. They don't really care. They don't really care if it's down, up, sideways, upside down, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like they don't really care. What they care is like, can the next person give me what I want without me having to put much in? Do narcissists have issues with their parents? A lot of times, because a lot of times it stems from either abuse, trauma, overbearing, whatever the other one is. Not overbearing, but the opposite, over-controlling. First time here from Philly. Congratulations. Welcome to see you. Can my ex see his new supply as a narcissist just like him? A lot of times they don't. Could you journal on your phone with locked notes they don't see? Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. My husband upset with his sister's abusive boyfriend, father of her child, but he is worse to me. Yeah, a lot of times that hypocritical mindset of like, I can't believe someone would do that. That's why narcissists will be like so mad at you, if you kiss another person or if you go out with another person, but like they can cheat like 24/7. It's that hypocritical mindset. Yeah, no, absolutely. If they're devaluing and discarding, why do they get insanely jealous? I could hold the door open for someone behind me, not even knowing who it is, and if it was a guy, I'd get the silent treatment. Yeah. No, I mean, the idea of them getting like insanely jealous or getting like really crazy, like a lot of times you'll see this, like, let's say I did a video on this the other day. Look it up. It's when you abandon a narcissist, okay? And it's like the thought process of like when you get ready to like go out, leave, or anything like that, you get ready to like separate from them. One, they're losing control. And two, it's activating that trigger like deep down beneath of shame, but also abandonment. And abandonment, according to Dr. Ramani, is like the idea, it's like a primal fear. It's like something that's down below that's like a primal fear of like people don't want to get abandoned. And whenever that happens in conversation, it feels like rejection to them. Okay, so that activates a lot of different things. That's like part of the reason. What does a narcissist get out of being someone they're not? To harm someone they neither know or have any investment in. What's the payoff? I still don't get the benefit, cost/benefit. So there's a high cost and there's a small benefit. But the difference between that is it feels like the cost of telling the truth and being honest about who I actually am is greater than the benefit of being honest. It feels like that cost of creating a false persona, it feels like that whole facade that I would project up would be so much easier than admitting who I am, admitting the truth, being vulnerable, admitting that I screwed up. All of that stuff seems way harder than a benefit of just not lying. And a lot of times people are like, you know, is the narcissist, are they changing? Are they working on themselves? When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, like the narcissist needs to stop fucking lying. That's really what it comes down to. But that not lying is the aspect of, hey, I have to be honest. I have to be vulnerable. I have to be accountable for my actions. The narcissist doesn't want to do that because it attacks their ego. It attacks their self-centeredness. It attacks their entitlement. And ultimately attacks their vulnerability. That's like one of the biggest things. Oftentimes I say like narcissism has a giant rushing river underneath filled with shame, and that shame can't get tapped into without vulnerability. There's no change without vulnerability on anybody, not just a narcissist, on anybody. There's no change without vulnerability. You see, when that's one of the things that you have as a benefit. You know, if you're not the narcissist in the relationship, you have a benefit in life. Because as you take a map and you spread it out, and you can actually say like, hey, here is point B. Okay? So like I'm in Virginia, and so I want to go to DC. I'm like, hey, here's DC. You know, I know this is where it is. Now, how do I get there? You know, if I don't acknowledge where I actually am, you know, if I'm in Virginia, Colorado, Washington, like wherever I am, if I don't acknowledge where I am, I have no starting point. I have no basis of going anywhere. And as a result, I'm living a life in fantasy because I'm saying, hey, one day I'm going to get here. One day I'm actually going to get to this place. The problem is narcissists are not willing to acknowledge where they are. And that is a huge difference that you have in your power and your capability to take back your power and focus on your growth because you can acknowledge where you are. Is it easy? Heck no. But that's the difference. Is you can actually acknowledge, hey, this is who I am. This is where I am. This is what I'm struggling with. This is where I want to go. All right, let's work on a plan. Let's work on a way to be able to get there because it is possible. And so I work with people every single day to help them get there. To help them get to the place of healing, happy, and healthy. A good comment. Please share local recovery events. Lots of narcissists in VA. So I don't have anything necessarily recovery event oriented. I do have an announcement that we started announcing the other day that myself and Mental Healness, Lee Hammock, we're actually going to be in Virginia meeting people, doing a meet and greet. Virginia Beach area coming up on June 12th. They're actually making a whole like weekend trip. So like we're all going to be there. Like both the families, we're super excited to be able to get there. We'll have some announcements kind of coming up with it, exactly where it is, but it's going to be June 12th. We're going to all be meeting. I put a couple of things on my website because I had some people that had reached out in Virginia. I'm looking into the idea of actually getting like office with like a local like office share company and stuff like that, where I can actually see about meeting with people like one-on-one, like in person, like in like a conference room. But that's like an option if people are interested. But anyways, that's coming up June 12th. So we're excited about that. Where are we at? Now I have to look over my shoulder all the time because I don't know when he's going to show up. And when he does try to make me feel guilty, he will call me names. Yeah, so part of that, like, you got to work on yourself, okay? But I totally get where you're coming from. You might be like, how do you know where I'm coming from? Okay, the girl that I was with that had BPD and narcissistic traits. So if you don't know my story, watch Self-Aware Narcissist. Watch about how I learned all this kind of stuff. But I know how you feel because I was in a trauma bond with a girl who had BPD, narcissistic traits. We were in an affair together, like this whole giant mess for like a long period of time. Okay, we have to be careful where we go in town. Okay, like there's a section of town we don't go into. Like we said, that's enemy's territory. Okay, because like when I go to a restaurant, when I go to a store, when I go to the mall or wherever I go, when we're out and about and we're getting ready to walk into a store, you know what I'm doing? I'm not watching where I'm walking into the store. I'm looking at the cars around me because I have to know if I see this one car. If I see this one black Hyundai walking, like driving around, and I see a certain license plate on it, I know I'm out of here. You got to focus on your protection. And yes, it feels awful of looking over your shoulder, but that protection is so huge. Protection is so huge. So keep that up. Why do I know he's a narcissist, but I feel responsible for everything and to blame? A lot of times because they put that blame back on you. They want you to feel guilty so they don't have to. Good questions. Good questions. Sorry, I'm trying to like catch up to everything. Hey, good to see you guys coming in. Trying to gray rock my way out. He tires of me and ultimately hopefully leaves me alone without harming me. Yes. Please be careful though. I tell people gray rocking works 50% of the time. And you have to be careful because sometimes with gray rocking, it just accelerates the abuse. So you really got to be careful. Carrie said, why do they punch things like walls when confronted? Even just saying, hey, where did you put my belongings? So a lot of that is not being able to control those feelings of shame, being able to control those feelings of blame and guilt and all that kind of stuff. So the easiest emotion to be able to experience in that moment is just rage. Just punch something. You might be like sitting there crying on the floor, and the narcissist looks at you and then just like walks away because they don't know how to engage or be able to handle the emotions that are happening in that moment. It's like overwhelming because they're like, does not compute. Like, and they're just like, I gotta go. Gray rock is the concept where you want to be as dull and as boring as a rock just sitting on the ground. Bump on the log. Okay, so basically it's like in your responses, like working and communicating to the narcissist, you're not giving them that supply, you're not giving them that validation, you're not giving them that reaction that they're looking for, because a lot of times it's built on that reaction. Bruensky said, Ben, I made it out, been having fun without it. Good to see you, dude. Awesome. Can't wait for the Zoom. Yeah, no, great. I'm excited about it. Guys, if you're not getting on the NARC app, we've got an exclusive Zoom that's coming up, and it's going to be a monthly thing. We're super excited to be able to roll it out. It's going to be coming out this Monday. You can go to the NARC app, NARC, download that on Apple or Google Play, or have exclusive lives that are there on Monday nights. They're exclusive for a reason, to be able to protect you and your safety. So they're not broadcasted out for everybody to see. That way people can get into the nitty gritty and they can talk through the shit that they're dealing with. They don't have to worry about someone else kind of like stalking them or seeing like what they're putting out there. And then we also have the monthly Zoom calls that are coming up. They're starting up. When we planned it, it was bad planning with the holiday, but we're still excited. We got several people that are signed up coming in on the monthly Zoom. If you're on the NARC app, go to Premium Supporter. It's got a way to be able to access the lives and access the monthly Zoom. Sign up. You have to sign up so you can get the Zoom link. Otherwise, there's no way to be able to connect with you. Why did he start crying when I would ignore him, and then when he would start an argument? And that's why, because you're ignoring him. You got to figure out, how do I get the attention back on me? How do I get the focus back on me? If it only works a certain way, or if they've lost their ability to manipulate you a couple different ways, they'll figure out how to manipulate you back. Please explain to us how you're on a trauma bond. I mean, but yeah. Does a narc can be on a trauma bond? Okay, we'll work on that. You're good. So I don't think a narcissist gets in a trauma bond with anybody that's just a regular like empath. Okay, the only time I would say like there be any aspect of a trauma bond would be the aspect of when you're with a toxic person, and that idea of you can't let go. because of that supply, because of that infatuation or like love per se in one sense is going on. But that trauma bond is that aspect of like you can't get out of it. Like you can't get out of it because trauma bonds come off of hope, come off of potential, and come off of cognitive dissonance. So the idea of the other person saying, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, by their words and by their actions. And so like being with that other person, getting into a place where I was like, oh, maybe they're going to get better, or maybe this is going to work, maybe it's not. Like going that back and forth was something that I'd never experienced before. You know, I put people through it. I didn't know what it was. I had never experienced it before. Did I get a trauma bond the same as like you get a trauma bond, or to the same level? Like, no, I don't think so. But it did open my eyes to different aspects of the trauma bond. So like, okay, transparency. Here we go. You ready? Okay. So when it all came out, when I was honest about being with the girl with BPD and narcissism traits, it came out. It was a full 10 months later before I blocked her and cut her out of my life. And you're like, well, 10 months, that's not very long for a trauma bond. Okay, but that's 10 months of this person being in my life, not in a cheating relationship at that aspect, emotionally maybe, but like being in my life on a weekly and sometimes day-to-day basis. And we're talking like not just out and about. We're talking about like at work or in my house. Like the shit was deep. Okay? And the shit that I put everybody through was awful. But I couldn't switch in my mind to be able to let go of that person or be able to acknowledge that this person was toxic for me. And it took a long time before I got to the place where I was like, okay, I can cut this person out. And it took a long time after that to be able to work through that. That's the real shit right there. Is there a connection between narcissists and attachment styles? If anything, I would say probably close to like an anxious avoidant, you know, because you're going off the idea of like shame and abandonment now on all that stuff as well. I don't know if I have like a definite like yes for sure on this one attachment style. I would kind of lean that direction. I'm trying to leave my narcissist boyfriend after he got physical with me. We also have a daughter who he barely shows any interest in. I told him to leave, and now all of a sudden he is asking me when he can see me. Yeah, there's just that back and forth. Like, I've changed, I'll do better, all this kind of stuff. If he's been physical, get out and make sure you're safe. Number one thing, make sure you're safe. Let's see. Sorry, YouTube, I'm catching up here. What do we got? My ex was 7 years older than me with military, police, and church connections. My parents did not even know that abused and lied to me. Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of times it happens even from your perspective as you get in the relationship. The love bombing is great. The connection feels great. The whole facade feels amazing. So you tell everybody this relationship's amazing. Then when they slowly pull it back, you're still telling people like, yeah, it's still great. And then you get to a place where you've told people it's so great for like a month or so, and then it starts being worse and worse, but you still keep up that facade because like who wants to go from saying like, yeah, it's been great to being like, oh, it's actually been abusive. Like that part is like super hard for a lot of people. And understandably, I mean, that's vulnerability, that's honesty, that's like common things that's like easy for us to want to avoid and things like that. Okay. But yeah, and that's part of the grooming. That's part of the manipulation. I've got a couple of videos on that on YouTube. Do narcissists ever reminisce on the times with exes other than sexual times? I'm going to go with no. Why can a narc ask for forgiveness a million times and we give it to him, but once we need it, it's all over? Yeah, it's that hypocritical mindset. Because in with a narcissist, when you give them forgiveness for something that they did wrong to you, when you wipe the slate clean, when you forgive them, a lot of times they view that as a sign of weakness. That means you just gave me a get out of jail free card. That means I can come back, I can do the same thing to you, and you're still going to forgive me over and over and over again. Typically because you haven't set boundaries. TikTok is blowing up. I'm not even sure where we are with comments. I'm sorry. There we go. But they also steal. That's not from trauma. It's theft. Mine sold $50K. Would never take them back. Yeah. mean, they also steal. That's very common in one sense. They steal it. Okay, from the trauma, I see what you're saying. They steal from the aspect of entitlement. Like, you're like, wait, that's my money. Yep, I don't care. Like, as a narcissist, how they think is what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine. Like, I'm not going to share my stuff. I'd rather freeload off of you. I'd rather use your money. I'd rather you put you into financial ruin. Like, that's what they do, like, back and forth. Okay? It's not about, like, what's yours. It's about what they think is theirs, and they think everything's theirs. That's entitlement. That's ego. That's what it is. Can drug use be the reason for narcissism, or is narcissism the reason for drug use? So drug use, so addictions would be used with narcissists for the form of sedation. To be able to sedate how they feel, to be able to sedate either guilt or shame that pops up. How long have you been married, and have you ever felt guilt for cheating on your wife? Really good question, Holly. Thanks for bringing that to the table. So we'll be married in 9 years now, coming up in August, actually. And during those times of having all the cheating, having all the affairs, no, there wasn't guilt there, because guilt as a narcissist in those moments was very quick. It's very like momental. It's like microscopic in one sense. And it's like, I feel it, shut it down. Feel it, shut it down. Feel it, shut it down. Okay, I don't feel it anymore. Like, that's almost the idea. It's like boxing it up, compartmentalizing it, and shoving it in the corner. So then the idea and the mentality or the thought process now is like, now that box has to be brought back out and be able to experience that at time to time, to be able to say like, hey, this is what I did. This is how I hurt. This is how I destroyed. And that's a hard thing to do, because narcissists, like, they don't like looking in the past. They don't like looking ahead, so they don't have to acknowledge the things that they've done. My narc refuses to be physically intimate. I'm cool with it. Knows that I see him. Filed for divorce and have kids with him. He's not fighting the divorce and the custody battles. This is a good thing. If you can get through the divorce and you get the custody battle won, then yes, it's 100% a good thing. Keep your guard up and be careful. A lot of times they fight and it ends up being awful. So like, if it's not fighting, then like, you might have a chance. So, like, just be careful. In the process of breaking up from a person who may be a narcissist, I have given him his space to work on himself while seeing no change, feeling conflicted now that I decided to no longer respond. So if you gave them space to work on themselves and they're not working on themselves, and one, that means they don't respect themselves, and two, they don't care about you. Don't feel bad about not responding. Just go ahead and block and move on. I'm a recovering addict. My narc smoked weed and drank. I would joke, let me drink, get high with him. He refused to be responsible for a relapse. Did that mean he cared about me? That's a really good question. If he was a narcissist, then he didn't care about you. It'd be more along the ideas of maybe controlling his image, about being the one responsible for putting you into that relapse, and didn't want that image to look bad in front of other people. Where are we at? I've skipped a lot of stuff on TikTok. Sorry, I got distracted. Where are we at? I was extremely intimate and then all of a sudden stopped. Used as a reward. Yep, it's like breadcrumbing. Nisa, thanks so much. All of them have the form of punishment and silent treatment. Yeah. Mine had a baby with a woman who's a life coach. They can dupe anyone. Yeah, 100%. Like, I've talked to therapists. I've talked to psychologists that have come and talked to me on like one-on-ones, because like they've been in a narcissistic relationship. If you haven't read or seen like Carrie McAvoy, like she's on Instagram and on TikTok. She has a book that released a while ago. What is it? All right, Love You More. She has a book that released as well, and like with that, it's like her own personal journey of being suckered into a narcissistic relationship. And she's a therapist. She's a psychologist. Like, she's like really smart. But it happens. Why does my ex say he's so sorry he hurt his ex-wife and kids, but never has said he's sorry for hurting me? I would say that's triangulation. And it's putting an expectation in your mind of what they've done to someone else, but then holding that back to you to make you think that you've done something wrong, or you have to try harder to be able to get that sorry. Do you still lie to your wife and struggle with being honest about things? If so, is it because of wanting to control or avoid shame? So with narcissism, it's all about avoiding shame. And then that shame is also about wanting to control avoiding shame, if that makes sense. So for me, the struggle right now is not the main focus of like honesty. The main focus with my wife specifically is vulnerability. So like the honesty of like what's actually going on, or like, you know, I did this or I did this, like that type of thing. Like those are not, the lies are not there. That honesty part is there. The part that's like harder is like, hey, this is how I'm feeling in this moment. So like, if I didn't say this is how I'm feeling in this moment, it's not a lie. Like I'm not lying about that. I'm just saying like that's what's hard to bring to the table of like opening up and saying like, hey, this is what's going on. But yeah, another great question. I appreciate it. Why do all narcs all of a sudden stop being intimate for a long period of time? Does that mean he has someone else? I would say typically yes. And I would say it means that they want something. Either they want to control you, triangulate you, or they're getting it from someone else. I was raised by a narcissist. Was one of your parents a narcissist, or were you a scapegoat child? Thanks. Just trying to understand all this. So I think my dad has like narcissistic traits. But I think for me, a lot of it was the emotional maturity, the emotional security, the idea of not feeling like I could bring everything like up to the table. I could express like me or who I was. Why they compare you to the new supply? Be able to triangulate you. Be able to get better supply from one of you guys. Kenzie, thanks so much. I look forward to hearing from you. Yeah, so if you guys are interested sometime, I do talk to people on one-on-ones, whether it's to answer questions, deal with a trauma bond, help people to get through whatever they're going through. You can go to rawmotivations.com. You can get the link in the bio. I know I've seen several people on here that like we've done one-on-ones, and they've said it's been very helpful. So don't just take my word for it. Are you addicted to sex, and did you suffer from early childhood trauma? So not necessarily trauma as far as like abuse, but trauma is more like on the emotional side. Whenever I first went to like therapy and stuff like that, like I didn't put anything that I'd been through as being like trauma, you know? Like I didn't think of like emotional trauma even being a thing. I was like, I didn't get like abused or anything like that. Like, what is that? But then there was stuff that like came out that I was like, okay, there's some stuff there. For me, it wasn't a sex addiction. The main reason why I know that is because I got sent to a sex addiction intensive. It was like all day for like 7 a.m. to like 8 p.m. for like several days. When I walked away from that, I was like, okay, I know I don't have a sex addiction, but I'm using sex. I'm using a relationship. I'm using what I want to be able to sedate who I actually am. Would you say you're a malignant narc or covert narc? Would you say a malignant narc or a covert narc is more dangerous? I don't have the best definition for all of them, to be honest. From what I've heard and seen, I would say malignant, but I'm just going to say it there. I'm not going to try to talk about it a ton because I feel like I'll botch that or not give you the best information. Do I have siblings? No, I do not. I'm an only child. My wife is the only child too, so that also made beginning of marriage interesting. Was told about the new affair partner. Husband, us only worried about who told me, hasn't asked her sorry. I don't know what that question is. Was I addicted to porn as well? Yes, in the past. Triangulation. I literally told my narc husband to go find someone else to be with, but he says no. I wouldn't call that triangulation. They're just, they're probably already with somebody to be honest. But the other aspect is like you're telling him to do stuff means they're probably not going to do it. He tries to make me feel guilty for how I left, even though I tried to tell him how unhealthy the situation was and didn't show any care about this. Yeah, they're going to turn around on you. Did I have an emotional affair with women? Yes. I set boundaries. He tells me nobody will ever put up with my stupid requests, so I'll be single forever. No, you won't. I can promise you that. There's healthy people out there, and that's what a narcissist is going to do. They're going to devalue your boundaries. They're going to devalue your thought process. They're going to devalue stuff that is either common sense or that is common, common decency. You shouldn't be yelling at me. If you're going to continue to scream at me, then I'm going to walk out of the room and we're not going to have this conversation. Oh, well, no one's going to be with you because you set like too high standards. Now you're just asking for someone to like be a human. Okay. What does a narc feel when we make him the same treatment? When we give him the same treatment? Like what? Like cheating? Like silent treatment? Ghosting? What you got there? Do narcissists obsess over people they can't have? I would say yes. They live in a fantasy world. So there's a relationship between narcissism and depression. Why do narcissists blame their partners for being unhappy? A lot. For me, I didn't struggle as much with like narcissism and depression. I think there's an aspect that I felt like my ego and my entitlement and my sense of like I'm the best thing ever like didn't give me the chance to get depressed. So I haven't run into a ton of narcissists that are depressed. I think with some of that we've touched a little bit more into like BPD, borderline personality disorder, as running into some of those depressions a little bit more from what I've seen. I haven't given my narcissist a penny in over 10 years and we don't talk. Why isn't she trying to focus on other people for partners? She might be still trying to focus on you at the same time. I don't really know. But a lot of times when they get that obsession, they're not going to stop. Is a narcissist damages your property and sends you sex tape to your friends? Is that ASPD traits? So like sociopath? Yeah, it could be some. It's a little... There needs to be more detail there to figure out in one sense. And, I'm not diagnosing. I'm just going off of, like, behaviors. Can a narcissist be a sex offender? Yes, absolutely. Seems like they're living a life out of the discard. New supply, new city, etc. Do they believe they really rode into the sunset or they pretend and they're miserable? Narcissists are miserable. They just pretend. That's all it is. Why do they want multiple supplies? Multiple supplies are a high. Being able to control and have all of them. Cheating is a high. What are the ways that I learned how to gain empathy? So a lot of my empathy is cognitive empathy, and a lot of it is developed and learned like through therapy. So I've been in therapy now for 15 months, every single week. Missed a couple of times when we were like out of town or something, but every single week. Discarded Diva, welcome. Good to see you on here. Do you feel miserable now that you're self-aware and working through it, or is it still there? Do you feel miserable now that you're self-aware and working through it, or is it still there? Is what still there? The miserableness that's kind of like, okay. I would say right now being self-aware, it's harder. It's harder than just like sitting back and just like letting whatever happen. But at the end of the day, letting whatever happen wasn't helping me. It was keeping me in that cycle and ultimately had me trapped. I opened tonight with the quote about freedom and the idea that narcissists are slaves, because that's really what it is, a slave to compulsion and impulse. And so now I'm making the choice not to behave that way, not to act that way. Do narcs call you a cheater if they're a cheater themselves? Yeah, 100%. Like if the narcissist is cheating, then a lot of times they'll call you a cheater even if you're not cheating. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Why do narcs do bad things and then act as if nothing happened and get offended when they don't get what they want? Well, they get offended when they don't get what they want because they feel like they're entitled to the end result. They're entitled to their demands. That's part of the aspects of narcissism. It's one of the 9 traits. But they do bad things and then act like nothing happened. One, because they don't want to admit that they happened. They don't want to have accountability. They don't want to have responsibility. They don't want to deal with the shame and the guilt of actually having that. The other aspect, I was talking to somebody the other day, is the aspect of like a salesman. When you think of a salesman, some of the best like salesmen are the ones that walk into the room already knowing that you're going to buy something, already knowing that they're going to sell you something. They already know, and they treat you like the sale's already done. Maybe it's a car salesman. You walk in a lot, which one do you want to take home? They have that expectation. So when the narcissist comes back in and they're treating you and they're acting like nothing ever happened, there's a part of you that starts to doubt yourself, and it's like, oh, well, maybe I'm just, maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't as bad as what I thought. And you just kind of go along with it. Okay. Do narcissists realize what they lost after you're gone? No. Narcs who create fake accounts and use your email to send you links after years no contact with a restraining order, they're obsessed. Yes, I would say that. Why do they lie so much, especially right in front of me and the kids? If I call him out, he comes back with a really hurtful comment meant to embarrass me. And meant to embarrass, meant to distract you, and meant to get you off track that you're actually tracking on a lie that's happening. And the lie that happens is to be able to avoid that guilt and that shame. If an narcissist can avoid that guilt and shame, they can feel better about themselves. That's why a lot of times they're blaming and they're putting it on the other person. Being selfish and self-centered is the easy way out. Yeah. When they stalk you on Facebook and TikTok is because they didn't move on. No, it's the aspect of control. It has nothing to do with their love or their, infatuation with you. It just has to do with control. What tips would you give to help my husband learn empathy? Tell him to get into therapy. Empathy is a super hard thing to even touch base on or even work through. When their entire family thinks you're the problem, that you're being abused and left right. Am I a narcissist too? My ex was a pathological liar and a cheater, but I was a verbally abusive to him. So what you're probably experiencing is, let's say it this way, if that's the only person you've ever been verbally abusive to, or if that is not the norm compared to everybody else, you might have been going through something called reactive abuse. That's where the narcissist pushes you and pushes you and pushes you to the place where you lash back out. To a place where you attack back. Yeah, that's a really good question. Why is the narcissist saying he's not going to miss me if we break up? Is that true, or is it just to manipulate you? One, is to manipulate you, and two, it's 100% true. Narcissist is not going to miss you. I was doubting my sanity until I started watching your posts and videos, and no, I know it's not me and you're not crazy. You're not crazy. I'm glad you realize that. I'm glad you see that. You're not crazy, because just look at this. There's a lot of people out here that are identifying with you on the same exact shit. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. There's 72 people over there. There's 47 people on Instagram. There's 106 on TikTok. There's a lot of people on here that have gone through the same shit that you have gone through. So yes, you're not alone. 100%. It's one of the reasons why we've got the communities here. That's one of the reasons why there's Narc Talk. There's one of the reasons why we have the Narc app. There's one of the reasons why we're trying to build communities so people understand, first off, you're not crazy. And the stuff that you're going through, the way that you feel right now, the way how you feel crazy in the relationship, let me tell you this, it is normal. And I'm not minimizing it. I'm not devaluing it. I'm saying how you feel right now in this moment, getting out of these crazy, jacked up relationships is normal, that you feel crazy, because of all the shit that you've been through. Okay? But just look in the comments. Look at the people that are here. They have lived the same stuff you have. I'm not crazy, but I'm so damaged and broken. Never love or trust again. That damage and that broken isn't your worth. How someone treated you does not define your worth. Think about it with a diamond. You've got a diamond, a rare, precious stone that's cut to perfection, that's polished, that looks amazing. And you've got one person that takes it, looks at it, tosses it down on the ground. It gets covered in mud and dirt. It looks awful and it looks nasty. You have another person that picks up the diamond, that cleans it off, that polishes, that makes it look nice and shiny and sets it up for the whole world to see and says, wow, look how amazing this diamond is. The thing you need to realize is the diamond's value did not change with the environment that it was in. It was still priceless in the dirt, and it was still priceless on display. And when you feel like you don't have any more worth, that you don't have any more value, understand, just because you've been in the mud and the muck of being in a shitty narcissistic relationship, being with the worst of the worst, being with a monster that has degraded and devalued you, does not take your worth. You might think I'm damaged, I'm bruised, no one's going to want to be with me. This isn't something that I can carry on with. Then those are the lies that the narcissist has put around you. Those are the lies the toxic person took. And a lot of times I'll illustrate it. I don't even have like a rope here, but a lot of times I'll illustrate it of like, imagine me holding like a rope here, and I take this and I put it over you and I pull it back. And that's that lie of you're not good enough without me. And I take another rope and I put it over you and I pull it back. And that's that lie of no one's going to want to be with a single parent. And I take that rope and I take another lie and I put it around you. You don't look good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not handsome enough. You're not sexy enough. No one's going to want that. And I take and I put another rope and I put another rope and I put another rope over you countless times. And all of a sudden you get to the place where you're doubting yourself. You're doubting your self-worth. And you're at the place that you're stuck in a trauma bond and you don't know how to get out. When I work with people one-on-one, I've got multiple people in the chats that I've worked with one-on-one. When I work with you one-on-one, what we do is we attack those lies piece by piece, because over a period of time, it doesn't feel like lies. It feels like this is who I am. I'm the screwed up person. I'm the messed up person. I'm the stupid person to like be in there, to be in this relationship. And so we have to work at it one at a time. People ask like how to break the trauma bond. It's changing one story, one thought that you believe at a time. There's two types of people that come in wanting healing. They want healing fast and quick. They want the Burger King healing. Have it your own way. And then there's other people that come in, they want healing, and they're like, hey, show me the way. I'll put in the work. And the people that put in the work, they get the change. Because they're taking power and control of themselves. They're saying, I choose freedom. Whether that's physically getting out, whether that's mentally getting out, whether that's building an exit strategy, they choose freedom. And that's their responsibility to be able to choose freedom. Is it easy? No. But you can be free. Okay? That trauma bond sucks. That trauma bond is the aspect of, like, let's say, like, logically, or like right now, there's people here in the chat that are saying, like, I know that this is a bad relationship. I know I have more anxiety. I have headaches. I have weight gain. I have stress. I have panic attacks. I have all these different things that happen when I'm in this relationship, but I still miss them. I still want to go back. I still want to see them, to hug them, to interact with them, just to know maybe something. And that potential and that hope keeps you coming back. Keeps you coming back. That's what that trauma bond's built on. Freedom for narcs is destroying and running away. Absolutely. What's that quote? With great power comes great responsibility. You know what the narcissist wants? They want great power, but not the responsibility. Not the responsibility for their actions. Trauma bond is unreal. 20-year marriage, 2 years separated, trauma bond. I don't want it anymore. RC, I see you. Don't give up on yourself, people. That's what toxic people did. He's right. Choose yourself. Yeah, absolutely. After 4 years, I'm trying zero contact again and hope this is the last time. Getting stronger. Zero contact needs to be ghosting and no contact, just to clarify. Just in case there's any question in your mind, Zero contact is not him having access to you and you just not responding. Zero contact is no contact, which means there is no possible way for him to contact you. Mandy Jean, sorry, I missed your question earlier. One-on-ones through rawmotivations.com or click the link in the bio. Megan, I cave in every time. You cave in every time because of the thought that's going through your head. Under the feelings, under the emotion, there's a thought that goes through your head. It might be rooted in hope. It might be rooted in potential. It might be rooted in cognitive dissonance. But that thought, that story that's going through your head is going to pull you back every single time. Maybe because you think something's changed. Maybe because you're worried about something. Maybe because you think you can do more. If anybody here thinks you can do something to change the narcissist, you're horribly mistaken and you're setting yourself up for abuse. It's not about you. He wouldn't even help me make plans for his mom's burial during the pandemic. Yeah. That's your thing, not theirs. We live in the same town. Haven't run him yet. I'm faster than him. Keep running. Keep running doesn't mean that you're scared or that you're weak. If anything, it means you're stronger because you're building your defense. No contact equals the same concept as no alcohol for an alcoholic. Yeah, absolutely. 10 years of marriage and I don't feel bad for him anymore or myself. That is what it is, but we all deserve better. Absolutely. Do I do court prep for survivors? Good question. I don't. I don't have that background to be able to help. There are a couple people on here that do, or at least have really good content, but I don't do court prep. That's a good question. How would I know he's a narc? Take a look at the 9 personality characteristics of a narcissist. Gary, I know you're not scared. Keep that up. That's awesome. They will leave everything, lose everything they worked for. They just don't care. 100%. All narcissists can talk. Best salespeople ever. Would you agree? I've seen a lot of them that are salespeople, but a lot of them suck at it. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of them suck at lies and communication. Period. If they can never change, what is your motive to educate people about narcs? 1, so you don't get with one. 2, so you don't get back with one. And 3, there might be a rare chance out there that someone actually will get help, like a narcissist. Out of the people that I talk to on a given day, 95% of the people I talk to are narcissistic abuse survivors. 5% are narcissists. 1% of narcissists come back. 0.5%, if you can have that. Best response to a quick 1-hour phone blocking only means of communication, games, wait, no kids. I do not understand that question. I always told mine to either sell used cars or go to Hollywood. Don't give up yourself, forget them. Yeah, absolutely. Is there any hope? Okay, so sometimes people look at me or they look at Lee, mental illness, and they're like, oh, maybe my narc can be like you. What did you do to get them to change? And our wives have to say nothing. Because when it comes down to it, the hope that you're looking for is you're hoping for change. And when it comes down to it, they have to be able to look at themselves and have honest vulnerability and consistent change. And you have to see that time and time again. So I tend to be on here and say there's not hope, because if I give you 1 ounce of hope, I'm afraid that it's going to keep one of you guys in an abusive relationship. And that's not healthy, because you need to be looking at the actions. You need to be looking at what's actually going on. How are they treating you? How are they demonstrating love? How are they demonstrating that they honor you? How are they demonstrating their faithfulness? How are they demonstrating? The list goes on and on. If there's hope, are they getting into therapy? If there's hope, are they being honest? If there's hope, are they being vulnerable? Not about past stuff. Past vulnerability is oftentimes fake vulnerability. Are they being vulnerable about what's going on right now? Because that is the hardest shit for a narcissist. What causes someone to do a lot of narcissistic traits but doesn't check the boxes of a true narcissist? Pride, selfishness. Don't be a hope addict, someone says. They can keep you breadcrumbed with hope. It's 100% true. And a lot of times that trauma bond, you stay in a relationship a lot longer than what you should because you're hoping for a change and you're getting future fake constantly that they're going to change. He's the one who left and is in no contact with me. I feel confused. This is normal for a narcissist to do. Oftentimes, yes. So it's okay to be confused. A lot of times the no contact, they might block you for the sole purpose of that gives them control. Control of the blocking. How do you help you? Okay. How do you help you with courage, vulnerability, classes, workbooks, therapy? Definitely books, some podcasts, like working on changing my mindset, working with the warrior group. So I'm in a group with Wake Up Warrior. Been doing that going on 3 years now, actively stacking every day where I'm actually working on changing my thought process, my mindset. We just got out of a fact map challenge mastermind that happened yesterday, and I go into the third day tomorrow. Super excited where I set up my next quarter, and one of the things is vulnerability. That's another thing on the top of my list. So then it's like, how do I measure vulnerability with my wife? How do I measure vulnerability with God? How do I measure vulnerability with other people? Well, it comes down to it, like we have to build a system. That's the thing. And once again, like we can't tell where we're going. We can say, hey, this is where we want to go on the map. We want to be vulnerable, but then how do we get there? Acknowledging like where I am. Okay, I need to work on my vulnerability with God. I need to work on my vulnerability with my wife. I need to work on my vulnerability with like friends. Okay, so how do I put in a plan to develop a friendship, with another guy out there? How do I develop a plan to be vulnerable with my wife? And one of the things I got recently is the what's it called? The adventure challenge. You scratch off. It's got like a funky date or something to do. Like that is like vulnerable. It's like me putting out there like I'm not comfortable doing this, but like we're gonna do it because I know I have to get to a place of vulnerability if I'm gonna ever be at a place of change and growth. Hope that gives you some ideas. Are they still the same person, narcissist, in the new relationship? Yes. Unless they change, like the trigger of what's going on, they're always going to be the same person. I don't know if the story I'm telling myself about him, how would I find the story? In my mind comes up a blank. I know he's a cheater, a liar, and I can't trust him and don't want anything to do with him. So, like, the story is that concept of what's pulling you back to him, and that's built under your feelings, under your emotions, and often underneath the trigger. And so it's getting down to the place of, like, what's actually going on underneath the surface. There's a lot of, like, self-work and, like, looking at it. That's what I walk people through because it's unusual. It's a weird process. Like, people are like, my mind doesn't work this way. And I'm like, I know. But it helps. It helps get you underneath of, like, hey, like, if I loved him more, maybe he would change. Like, if I gave him what he wanted, then, maybe this would work. Do narcissists fake illnesses? Yes, they do. How do you respond to narc smear campaign with flying monkeys? Ignore them and block them out of your life and focus on the people that know you. If a narc leaves you, use that time to get yourself together and stay away from them. Absolutely. He gets very defensive when I bring up 2 friends of his that I asked to never contact again. Why would he get defensive? Probably because he's in contact with them. Probably because he thinks you're controlling him, playing the victim card. I grew up with NPD. I still hope from a distance. More for them. I know they're unhappy. Do narcissists not trust others because they don't trust themselves? Yeah, to a degree. Is there nothing I can do to salvage our friendship? Are they willing to work on themselves? Are they willing to work? See, if they're not willing to work on themselves, then, like, what's that say about their friendship with you? Like, if I'm not willing to invest in myself and build up who I am so I can share some of who I am to you, then what's that actually mean about the relationship? You see what I mean? He got mad when I told his brother everything he did to me and said I was ripping his family apart. Yeah, he's going to try to blame you for you saying the truth. Keep on your truth. I listen to you and Lee and some other daily when I'm feeling weak or anxious to keep my mind in the reality. It's helping detach myself and continue the exit plan. Yes, keep up with that exit plan. My ex-narc would excessively stalk me, put tracking device in the car, abuse me constantly of cheating, and then become rageful towards me constantly, but would never leave. Yeah, no, they do that. A lot of times it's easier to stay. A lot of times people are like, why would they want to stay in this like chaos, in this like crazy environment? The reason why they want to stay in the chaos is because the narcissist is the chaos. Think of it as a tornado. In the center of a tornado, it's calm. It's not the best example, but in the center of the chaos, the narcissist feels at home. Put it that way. Narcissists thrive on chaos. Yep. Mine tried to make me think I was a narcissist when I confronted him. I logged into my social media and found out that he was cheating. Does that make me a narc? No, that makes him a cheater. Focus on the actions, work on protecting you. How to act in front of them in court. They're going to try to make you react. Walk by him with your head held high. Ignore him like he doesn't even exist. And then don't react to anything he says. I called the cops on my narc yesterday. We aren't together. How will he act? Probably be furious and try to blame the victim. When you were the chaos also, were you the catalyst or were you the reaction? A lot of times people are the reaction, reactive abuse in those chaotic moments. As soon as he was caught, he is now focusing on himself and went silent. Okay, just so everybody knows, not like when a narcissist says they're focusing on themselves and they disappear, they go silent, that means they're like with someone else. Okay? Yeah, there's going to be like one or two people be like, no, I know they weren't. Okay, like when a narcissist says like we need to separate so I can focus on myself, typically you're not going to see that at all. Yep, absolutely. Am I the only one who wants revenge? No, there's lots of other people that want revenge. The thing is, revenge won't help you heal. A lot of times people think it will, but the time and effort you spend trying to destroy someone else or stoop to their level means all that time and energy that you're not investing in yourself. And ultimately, you're becoming slave to your impulses, your compulsions, to the things that you want to do to make yourself feel better instead of working on making yourself feel better. A little bit different there. My ex-narc has attempted to turn his new supply into me. Scary stuff. No contact for 2 months. Yeah, a lot of them you have narcissists that try to mimic the next supply. Like they want them to look the same. They want them to act the same as the last person. Sometimes they latch on to like a certain type of person or a certain persona or personality, especially when you have like different aspects of like sex addiction or like different things like that. Like sometimes they'll latch onto like an early memory, an early thought process of like later down the road they're cheating or they're looking at pornography because of something that happened in their past that triggers the same thing. For me, it wasn't that way in relationships. It was that way in my affairs. You know, my wife brought it up one day. She was like, you know, like the people that you cheated on me with, you know, they all are like similar. Like they all like look the same. It's creepy. When I did EMDR therapy, kind of like got down to the root of that and actually started connecting that of like why. Do narcissists ever really miss us after the discard? So a narcissist after discard misses the control and misses the aspect of having you there to meet their needs. My ex-narc got me to therapy because I confronted him on his addiction when he tried to say sorry. Why? Like he wanted you to go to therapy? Sorry, I got a little confused on that one. When a narcissist says he wants help and acknowledges all his actions, should we believe him? He sounds really aware and ready for change. Sounding really aware and ready for change is still not change. Make sure acknowledging and saying sorry versus apology are like two different things. And however long you've been with him, take that time and cut it in half. And that's what you, at minimum, needs to see a change with the relationship off the table to know if there's actually going to be change. Don't interact with them until that time's passed. Seeing is believing. Yeah, making sure you're evaluating them by their actions. Best response to quick phone blocking, then silence. Bring up, wait, phone, only communication avenue. Best response to quick phone. So like they block you. Like if they block you, like block them, like stay away. Do you think narcissistic behavior can be temporary and active addiction of substance abuse? No, I don't. My narc now, after having been called that, now every time I say anything, he calls me a narcissist. This is why a lot of times we recommend to people not to call him a narcissist, but go after the actions. He's popping in my dreams lately, kind of scared that that's a sign he's going to hoover. Maybe let's make sure that there's story, that there's nothing there for you to be able to hold on to. Make sure that you're doing the energy work or the inner child work to make sure there's nothing that's going to pull you back. If he blocks you, then block him back. If I go back, will his behavior become even worse toward me since he was angry I left? 100%. When a narcissist has abuse, physical, emotional, mental, sexual, and a narcissist has an abuse, and you're with that narcissist for a period of time, and that abuse keeps rising up and up and up and up, finally gets to a place where you can't handle it anymore, they leave, you break up, whatever it is, that abuse level is here. Okay? When you forgive the narcissist, when you come back to the narcissist, when you come back to psychopath, sociopath, toxic person, it doesn't matter. When you come back to an abuser and forgive them, that level, this amount of abuse is now the new baseline. It didn't decrease in its abuse level. It's just now the new norm. And now we go up from there. It's like when you take them back and forgive them over and over and over again, that abuse doesn't lessen or get any better. It gets worse. Every single time. I leave my marriage with him 5 months ago, still struggling the healing process, no contact for this period. Yeah, no, it's incredibly hard. A lot of times you're dealing with a trauma bond where you're stuck, of wanting to go back, of hope, of potential, of doubting yourself, maybe thinking that you're the narcissist, maybe thinking, what if I did something different? What if I could have loved him better? What if I could have done this? Maybe he would have understood. He would have figured out what was going on. He could have realized what I was going through. A lot of times that happens like over and over again. And that's the idea of being out of the trauma, like being out of being with the narcissist, being out of that active trauma and being at a place where there's peace, because you're not being actively abused in that moment, but you don't feel peaceful. And that's because what's happening is you're detoxing from a narcissistic person. You're detoxing from a person that put in an addiction in your life. And we have to break that story piece by piece, one at a time. So you think the addiction just brought it out? No, I do not. If I answer that incorrectly or messed it up, I don't think an addiction like produces narcissism. Maybe an addiction could cause a mask to slip slightly, but addiction is not going to make narcissism. It's already there. It's already underneath. Addictions oftentimes are come in to narcissistic personalities, and they're used to sedate the guilt and the shame that they're feeling. Mine couldn't control me, and now he's using child support money to control me, but I don't care. Good. Take back your power. A lot of times if you're going through stuff and you're expecting to get child support, it's not going to happen. They like to abuse the finances when they're in the relationship and even afterwards. Long history of trauma and deep loss, having lost parents at 39 years. I see more of my toxic behavior as anxious attachment and constantly been activated and fearing his abandonment. Yeah, absolutely. Abandonment is like a primal fear, a primal thing that's there where you're like, wait a second, like I do not want to be alone. And narcissists can like latch onto that to a place of like, okay, I'm gonna make you alone unless you do this, unless you give me what I want. Do you think they love their partner? If they're a narcissist, no, I do not think they love their partner. They love their image. Have you heard the story of like narcissists? The story of Narcissist, where the guy who he loved his image so much, he was looking into the pool and he liked what he saw so much that he died. A lot of times people take that story, they take the idea of like narcissism, and they're like, narcissists are just so in love with themselves. Narcissists hate themselves. Like, narcissists are not in love with themselves, because the story of Narcissus, when he looks in them in the water and he dies, that's not showing self-love. If it was self-love, he would have got up and he would have taken care of himself. If the narcissist had self-love, they would actually get up and get their butts into therapy and actually work on themselves. But they don't have that self-love, and they don't have that love for you. Asked my ex-narcissist for financial help as we have kids, and he humiliated me and insulted me. They're going to degrade, they're going to devalue anything you throw out there. Still feel lost. Want to let him know I know his big secret. I don't care about his response. You can let him know, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to get him to understand, if you're trying to get to convince him, like you might as well go tell a wall. Nothing's going to happen. Why do narcissists blame you for staying when they also stayed? Narcissists blame you for staying because they're abusing you and you're not actually leaving. They stay because they're the ones causing it. Mine went to therapy because it was court ordered for the domestic violence. Just used that, but he learned to gaslight me. 100%. That's why we say normally don't call people narcissists. He made up a story about going to the hospital. When I ask questions, he says, I'm asking too much. Probably because the story is false or some part of it's fake. Yeah, I sent mine a really long text today about how he really hurts me and might as well told a wall for real. Yeah, no, absolutely. Because a lot of times people want to tell off a narcissist or convince them of something or show them and be like, maybe they'll understand. And sometimes I have to ask people, I'm like, when in the relationship did you convince them of something? And they're like, well, never. And I'm like, okay, well, how do you expect that to happen now? You know, the same idea. People are like, you know, I broke up with them. Why won't he just leave me alone and like block me? Like I keep asking him, do not contact me. Like just block me, leave me alone. I'm like, they didn't respect your boundaries when they were in the relationship. What makes you think they're going to respect them out of the relationship? Lynn Papas, I don't see the question. I'm sorry. I might have missed it because we're on a couple platforms here. Nobody should be scared of the remark. I don't see it. Throw it back in the chat. Sorry. 7 years of trauma and gaslighting, left several times. Now I've done it for good, but I can't get her out of my head. That's the trauma bond. You know it's toxic, but you still want to go back. You know it's toxic, but you're still wanting that person, wanting to interact, wanting to see, wanting to gauge, wanting to hug, whatever it is. The trauma bond doesn't break when you leave the narcissist. The trauma bond breaks when you break the trauma bond. Is that easy? Not at all. It is super hard, but it is a lot easier when you have the tools to be able to work through and be able to figure out, this is the story that I'm thinking. What are the facts? And let's work on rewiring your mind with the right story, with the right thought that's based on the facts. And the facts, the truth of the situation will set you free. I always end up feeling bad for him for leaving because he's good at tears. I asked someone the other day, I was like, would you feel bad if he was beating you? And they said no. And I said, that's what he's doing. Those tears are just a facade to keep abusing you. I'm just starting to feel sane again. I felt out of my mind the majority of the relationship. 100%. Absolutely. My narc with no contact on me. Is that normal for a narc? It's been 8 weeks. Said he was done with me for good. Could he come back? He could absolutely come back. Sometimes they go non-contact so they can control the narrative and so they can control when they want to come back. When you decide to go to therapy, what is it about your wife that you chose to say versus discard and start over with a new supply? Discarding and starting over with a new supply isn't going to fix me. So let me fix me first and then work on my relationship with my wife, my relationship with others, my relationship with God. Just moving on to the next person. Sometimes people do that in the healing process. They're like, I'm out. Now I'm just going to go be with someone to forget what all happened. Like, you're not going to get healed. Just burying it down isn't going to fix it. He unblocked me on Insta. Guess you can't block if you've already been blocked. He apologized for multiple things after years of a breakup. Honest or manipulating? I would say manipulating. Just go ahead and block while he's there. Do covert narcs hoover you back? Any narc can hoover you back. Narc and BPD relationship feels like shadow work. Thoughts? Yeah, I'd agree. Some dicey stuff getting in there. Is there a big difference between narcissism and codependency? There is. I don't have a good way to be able to explain it. And I do apologize, Greg, because I do not have a good answer for you. I remember talking about this with a psychologist about how narcissism and codependency is different. But at this moment in time, I do not remember how to be able to explain that effectively. So I apologize. Kirsten, what I said is that he could come back, and a lot of times they go no contact to be able to block you. That way they control the narrative of when they can come back. How do you know narc is trying to force you to discard them? If you think that there's a narcissist trying to force you to discard them, what are the actions and behaviors that you're seeing? Because if you're already seeing the actions and behaviors, you probably need to already head and discard them. But a narcissist wants you to discard them for the fact that they can look like the good person. Well, they left me. I tried. Maggie, great question. This is recorded on here, and it goes to YouTube. That's the easiest place to be able to see it. So it'll be posted online later, so you can see it there. Or no, Kirsten said that. I'm sorry. So we do these lives every Thursday from 9 to 11 Eastern time, and they get posted on YouTube that we can go back and like watch them. What we do on Monday nights is exclusive lives inside the NARC app. And we do it exclusive because we want to be able to have a safe place for people to be able to share, ask questions. So people go on there, they're able to ask questions, be able to work kind of back and forth in one sense in a safe environment that's not posted to the internet, that's not posted public. So if people have to ask questions about the active abuse that they're going through or the relationships that they're in or like all this kind of stuff, it doesn't get like broadcasted. So that's why we have the exclusive lives inside the NARC app every Monday night. We do have coming up this next Monday, we do have the monthly Zoom call that's coming up. So if you haven't had a chance, go into the NARC app, click on Premium Supporter, and click on the monthly Zoom calls. They're going to be happening every single month. We're excited to be able to bring those up, a way to be able to work on our community, to build community with people who've been through narcissistic abuse. So download the NARC app if you haven't had a chance. Just download it, set it up. You have to set up an account just to be able to log in. The reason why is we want to have a secure location. We want to have a secure way for you to be able to get into this app. It's not meant for the narcissist. It's meant for you. It's meant for your healing, for your growth. And we've been working on putting a lot of this stuff together. It's come out with like two decent sized like updates over the past couple of days. I actually have to update it because I haven't had a chance today. But yeah, you can get on there. You can record your truth, almost like truth journal. You can truth journal in there. You can track your no contact. You can connect with other survivors, other people that have been there. You can access the weekly lives. You can access the monthly Zoom calls. And it's not a webinar, like it's a Zoom call. So like we're all going to be like face to face, be able to interact, be able to ask questions, be able to hear coaching and kind of set the frame for the month, to be able to say, hey, this is how you're going to continue to grow, live happy, live healthy. If you guys want to talk sometime like one-on-one, reach out. My link is in all the bios. You can go to my website, rawmotivations.com. I work with people every day to try to get out of the trauma bond, try to get through the detox phase, and try to work on setting goals, their vision and values, and how to build those boundaries so they don't go back to the narcissist and so they don't get involved with another one. Yeah, no, absolutely. You can join those lives to be able to ask. Go and grab a one-on-one, be able to talk. So it's cool. I get to see like I think the coolest part is being able to talk to people one-on-one and then being able to see some of you guys like in the chat and you're like, hey, this helped. Hey, this helped. And I'm like, yes, like I had a chance to be able to interact with you. Browensky's rocking it over here on TikTok. We've talked a couple times and like he's getting the healing. He's putting in the work. It's freaking awesome. Super cool. Post the link. Post the link for what? If it's the NARC app, go into Apple Store, go into Google Play, type in NARC, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community, NARC. It'll pull right up. Or you go to the website, it's in the link. Raw Motivations. The NARC app is the name. NARC. There you go. There you go, Elizabeth. Unlicensed adult. Yeah, absolutely. Send it my way. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing too. I don't want the narc to feel like he got away with a big lie. Insulting my intelligence adds insult to injury. You don't have to take the insult. Think of it this way. If I sit here and I cuss you out in, I don't know what language you speak. So if I just cuss you out in a different language and you have no clue what I'm saying, and I say it nice and everything like that, if I cuss you out in a different language, it doesn't mean anything to you, right? Like you don't take anything from it. You don't take offense to something I'm saying because you don't know the words that I'm saying. What's happening in that moment is you are the one that's putting meaning to the words. And so when those insults and when that injury is coming from the words that those people are saying, that's something that you're also putting weight to those words and you're receiving. Remember who's delivering it. The person who's delivering it shouldn't be given weight to their words because they're a liar, a cheater, a manipulator, and they've gaslit you. Their words mean nothing. Because regardless of the words they put in, they never followed it up with actions. Y'all, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back Monday night if you're on the NARC app. We'll be back for the monthly Zoom call. It's 8:15 to 9:15 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be on live 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern time on the live inside the NARC app. We'll be back Wednesday. This Wednesday we're going to be on my channel on YouTube. So under Raw Motivations on YouTube, we're going to be here doing question and answer time with myself and Lee Hammock, Mental Healness. So Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. We got some cool stuff that we want to be able to show. We finally figured out how to enable like screen share. I know we're getting like super techie and everything, so we can actually like show you guys stuff, whether that's like the website, the NARC app, the co-parenting webinar. If anybody's on here, there's a co-parenting webinar coming up June 2nd. Link is in my bio. Lisa, Stronger Than Before, has it hosted. It's going to be awesome. So she's got parenting coaches, judges, like abuse coaches, like a bunch of different stuff on there. There's like 5 different people on it. It's gonna be super awesome. Whenever she sets one up, it's like fire. Hey, for anybody who's still left, I haven't announced it in a while. Coming June 12th. June 12th. If you're in the Virginia area at all, Virginia Beach, Virginia, myself, my wife, my daughter, Lee Hammock, his wife and family are going to be in Virginia Beach. We're going to be doing a live meet and greet. Details coming. You can mark it on your calendar, June 12th. That Sunday afternoon, we're going to be interacting with some people. I've actually been looking into the idea about an office. The place I've been looking at has like an office where they have conference rooms and things like that. So I've actually been looking at that too. I just don't know if I want to like go for it if there's not going to be interest. But I've talked about doing an office with conference rooms so I could actually start meeting with people one-on-one, like in those conference rooms. So that's something. If you're in Virginia, we're kind of talking about that, thinking through some stuff. I'm in Virginia, so Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake area. But just a thought. If you guys have any thoughts, let me know. Appreciate y'all. Thank you all for being on. Saw a lot of people on here for a good while. Thank you guys for the shares and the likes, just trying to spread that awareness. Don't worry, we're wanting to come other places too. Want to visit other places too. So right now we got to start small. So we're going to be doing initially like a meet and greet in Virginia, and then probably a meet and greet down in North Carolina, kind of home base for Lee. Virginia's home base for me. Kind of do a little bit of that and kind of go back and forth. All right, everyone. So see you Monday. See you guys Monday if you're in the NARC app or if you're signing in on the Zoom call. Remember, you do have to go inside the NARC app, go to Premium Supporter, click on the monthly Zoom, and sign up. If you don't sign up, then you won't get the link. If you get the link, you can get in. But anyways, y'all have an awesome and blessed morning or night, depending on where you guys are. Be awesome, be real, be free, get healing, be happy, be healthy. Y'all have a great night.